Hello and welcome to my video of how to install LED indicators on a 2019 Tracer GT. Having looked online for videos of how to do this myself, I found little to no content, so I thought, hey, why not record it and hopefully will assist others who wish to make the same modification. So on the left we have the halogen original indicator and on the right we have the new LED. I did come across one or two issues whilst installing, which I will talk about as I go through the process of installing them. Overall, it took me around 2 to 3 hours and was actually a fairly straightforward job. Anyway, that's enough of me talking, so let's get cracking. Okay, so this is the instructions that come with the LED indicators. There's little to no text at all, other than part numbers. But as you can see, it's fairly self-explanatory. The only thing I didn't do was I didn't use the resistors. You only need to use those if you don't change the relay. Basically, you will get hyper flashing if you don't either use the resistors or buy an LED relay. So I bought the LED relay, just all a bit neater, a bit tidier. And for the sake of £10, I thought, hey, why not save myself a bit of work trying to lose these big chunky things behind the panelling. So yeah, that's the instructions. Hi there. So first off, we're going to start by removing this side panel. It's basically held on by 3 Zeus type fasteners. So there's one here, and one around the back here. It's a 4mm Allen key. For those of you that don't know, you can actually use a Torx screwdriver or Torx fit-in. This is actually a T25. Actually, sometimes I prefer these because they've got the comfort grip and it's a bit nice to use an Allen key. So yeah, as you can see, look, you can use the Torx bit just as easy as an Allen key. What you can't do is use an Allen key on a Torx bit. So yeah, so remove the Zeus fasteners or Zeus type fasteners. And then there's like a placement pin at the back here and a hook at the bottom. So what you don't want to do is pull, you don't want to pull the bottom out, so you want to start by pulling the top out first, just to pop the placement pin, and then lift, or actually lower, sorry, the panel, and it's that easy to get off. Here you will find the connector pin, which is quite simple to remove. We just take without dropping the panel. You just want to pop the little fastener off, and there we go. I'm actually going to show how I keep this connector and actually use it for the new connection, because as mentioned before, I think it's nice to have the option to restore it to its original. If I ever sell it and the person wants to put the original fittings back on for whatever reason, then they can do so. Okay, so once we have this panel off, you'll see on the back there's some more fixings. There's the 4mm Allen key fittings again. So what you need to do is you just need to undo the 2 smaller fixings like so. I think the trickiest part of this is actually removing these clips here. So I don't know if there's a better method. I haven't looked it up, but basically if you get yourself a small flat-headed screwdriver, Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to get a small screwdriver because that's too big. There you go. A very small screwdriver, and just work your way around it carefully. As you can see, just work your way around it to prise it off, not applying too much force because we don't want to damage it. And these are all going to go back on once we've made the change. So, oh, there we go, that's the first one off. And they actually go back on fine. So you get the picture with that. Easy enough. Okay then. So with the 3 tricky little clips removed, we simply just remove this backing panel, and here we have like the back end to the indicator. And it's quite simple. We just need to remove this clip, which again, super easy to get off. Slide that out. And then we can actually pop the indicator back through. And there it is, the old indicator removed. Okay, so next we're going to be putting the indicator into the panel. These are genuine Yamaha indicators. I have already cut off the connectors that it comes with because they're not needed. As I said before, I'm going to connect it into this old connector block that's attached to the bike. I'll show you how to do that as well. It's fairly straightforward. And yeah, I've seen a video online of a guy that just snips this and uses his own connector blocks. But I'm all for trying to keep these on, and yeah, give somebody or myself the option to put it back to its original state. Okay, so in the box, the bits that come with the indicators, we have these resistors. Now, you don't have to actually fit these, and if you look at the size of them, they're quite big. So I opted just to change the indicator relay for an LED one. Found a company online that actually make them themselves, make of electrical components. So it seemed a lot simpler to me to just do away with these, because yeah, they just seem a bit too much. Also, you get some of the bits. Again, you get the connector ends. Again, it seems extra work. So yeah, I didn't bother with these. But what you will need is you'll need these like spacers to house the new indicator. And it seems a little bit wrong when you look at it, but they've got like a matte black finish side and like just an unfinished side. The matte black side is the side that you actually face outwards from the panel. So this one here seems a little strange. You think it should go in there like that, but as you can see, it's like the unfinished side. And also the idea of this is to bring the indicator away from the panel. So it actually has to sit in there like this. I have to say that the design's not great, but it does work. So you might be scratching your head a little bit if you do fit these ones in particular. And basically this goes on the back. Indicator goes through this hole with the wire onto the back there with a nut, and I will show you this in a second. It's a little bit fiddly positioning it all and getting the nut on. Basically feed that through there. so, and then there's a nut that goes on the back. What I will say is, when I did the other side, is I did find that the backing plate that goes on to the exterior trim does clash with this here, and when I realised that, I thought, okay, well that's not good, because over time the wires that are going to be sort of bent over the thread, and there's a good chance that it could cut through the wire, and that's not good. So what I actually did, pull this back out, I purchased to pull the thread back through a little bit, because you can't really cut it, it's quite tricky. It would be quite tricky to do with the wires going through it, not cutting through the wires. So what I actually did, I bought myself some standoff rubber washers. Okay, and what I have here, I think, is a 4 or 5mm rubber washer that I just put on here, and actually I've done the other side, and it doesn't look bad at all. So feed your rubber washer over the wire, and then what you want to do is grab the thread and make sure you're grabbing this rubber bit here, because I think this does turn, and I don't know if it's causing any disruption to connectors inside the actual LED unit itself. So it's really worth grabbing hold of the rubber end of the thread and just turning this on, winding it onto it like so. Okay, so the indicator is in the panel. It's worth just having a look, make sure you have it facing the right way, because obviously on opposite sides the writing's facing different directions as well, so it can catch you out a little bit. So also you can see here I've got my spacer, my standoff spacer, which just allows this thread to be back a little bit from the nut. And what you want to do is make sure before you put this back on is just make sure that this is tight. Obviously you don't want to overdo it, just do it enough so that you're happy that it's not going to move once the panel's fitted. I mean, I will say that the actual fitting itself isn't the best. There is room for it to move around, so that's why you want to kind of make sure you've got it tight enough, but not too tight again. So yeah, it's worth offering the panel onto the bike as well, carefully. Just make sure that it doesn't fall off, so you can actually stand back and have a look, just to make sure that your indicators are both facing sort of this, or at the same level, even. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now putting the backing plate on. As you can see, there isn't a lot of room between the backing plate and where the wires come through, which is why I had to put the standoff washer on, because on the other side I found out that you just can't get this back on, and yeah, there's a risk of chopping into the wires, which we don't want. So okay, once you're happy with your indicator, bring your wire through before you put your clips back on, because yeah, you're only going to be annoyed if you've left that behind. So grab your fiddly little clips, just carefully pop them on. You will need to use a little screwdriver again to push them back on, or a bigger screwdriver at this point. It doesn't have to be a small one, or any screwdriver you want, to be fair. I'm using my T25 Torx screwdriver because it works just as fine. As you can see, make sure that they're pushed in. Again, just take your time. Next, we need to snip the wires back to expose the two wires, the yellow and the black. And to do that, I have some wire strippers. There's actually quite a lot of wire here, probably way more than you need. As you can see, the panel goes on there and the wire's really long, so you can always tuck some back inside here. Just for fitting, getting on and off, you need a little bit of room to work with, so don't lose too much. But I'd say if you just tuck a little bit back in there, maybe take 6 inches off, that should be fine. Take more if you're brave. You may want someone to give you a hand if you want someone to hold this up out the way while you get the wires in there. What I've got here is I've got my trusty workbench. Okay, so now we have our wires stripped, ready to go into the connector block, and it's as simple as just matching the wires up. Here we have a black, a grey, so just black to black and yellow to grey, fine. I don't actually know if they will work the other way around, but when I did the other side, I just matched the black up and the yellow to the grey, and it was fine, so I left it at that. Yep, so these little, behind the pins, the existing pins, there's a convenient little hole that you can just push them wires into. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape this up so they can't come out. Just hold everything in place, and then just check. Turn the bike on, put the hazards on, just to make sure, you know, it's working before we put it all back on. And as you can see, that works fine, so I'm happy with that. And yeah, that's all good to go. Got my clips back on, my fixings back in, so now it's just a case of making sure that these stay in there. As you can see, you know, it's fairly tidy. I haven't had to butcher anything, other than taking the connectors off the new indicators, which, you know, you can buy easy enough. I found these actually very difficult. I did want to buy one of these connectors, but I looked everywhere online, and there was one place that seemed to sell them, and they're out of stock. So yeah, I thought, okay, plan B. So, and that works fine. Next, I have my electrical tape. I thought the wires would be a little bit more protected from water, but I'm guessing the position of them means they're protected already. But yeah, I was a little surprised, because even the connector blocks, if water was to get in this compartment here, it could easily get into the wiring. So why they never actually seal everything up, I don't know. But having said that, I don't really like to ride it in the wet. It's only if I get caught in it by accident that it actually sees any water, apart from obviously cleaning it. So it shouldn't really be an issue. But if you want, you could always tape the ends up just for peace of mind. Certainly won't do any harm, and it's easy enough to remove. I'm just actually going to put a little bit of tape around that, because when the plastic's actually on, you can actually look behind and see this wiring. So again, yeah, why they never actually protected it a little bit more is beyond me. But at this stage, there's no reason why I can't offer a bit of protection. So there we go. And before I do much else, I'm just going to check again that works okay. turn it on. Yeah, it's all good. So I'm happy now. I'm going to put this back on. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to feed some of the excess wire back in behind that plate, and then I'm going to carefully hook the bottom back in, making sure I don't force anything. And it's got like a locator pin here to make sure that goes in, and that just pops in like so. That feels okay. Good. And I can put my Zeus fasteners back in. And I think all in all, this has probably took me 25 minutes to do the side, so really isn't that difficult or time consuming, providing you've got the time, of course. So cool. Okay, I'll just do one last check. Lovely. Now moving on to the back. I'm just going to show you what it looks like one side done. So obviously the left is the new one and the right is still the old. I'll show you behind. This is just a standard tail. Still, I haven't changed that. I'll just show you underneath if I can the wiring. Bit of light in here. Okay, so it's still a little bit dirty under there, but it gets a lot of spray off the back wheel, which is a little bit annoying. They're actually quite ugly at the back here, which I'm gonna do something about. I'm gonna form a piece of plastic, firm plastic, to hide a lot of this, because yeah, I don't like it. You can see that this is the old one goes in there. I don't feel they're very well protected, to be fair, from water, so I'm hoping what I do is going to actually improve, keeping it protected. You can see there the right, just the difference in the fitting. This one's obviously got a nut, and the left is its standard fitting. As you probably notice, it's very similar from the clip on the front ones. So yeah, I'm also going to show you the relay location. So inside where the battery compartment is and everything else, you've got all your electronics. Your relay is here. This is the new one I fitted. This is the old one. It just clips into this little rubber clip here. So it's dead easy to change. Yeah, highly recommend just changing that and swapping it out, because the resistors are just, I don't know why you would want to use them and not just change the relay. Seems just, yeah, nuts. But anyway, each to their own. What we want to start by doing is disconnecting the wire from the connector block. So as you can see, hopefully you can see in the camera, there's a connector block here. There's this grey one. This one here is the new one I fitted. So yeah, it should be quite easy to distinguish the one that's left to take out. So, and also I'm going to show you a little bit more about the actual connection itself. So that's the indicator disconnected. Now what I do is I actually take this off. So in order to get these off, quite simple, you look inside here, you can see the two connectors, and basically what we do is just get a very small screwdriver and you push the pins. It seems quite tough to do, but it does actually work. and what we can do is we can just push the pins back through this little plastic connector block. Okay, so look, there's the the 2 pins come out dead easy. Without taking this off, you will not be able to pull that back through, and yes, you may have to take the whole tail tidy off and create loads more work for yourself. And you know, these can go back on, and again, I'm going to keep these, whether I decide to sell them or put them back on at a future date, which I don't think I will. So that's that bit. Fairly easy, nothing too taxing. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to connect a loose bit of wire, so that when you push that back through, we can pull the new wire through. Okay, so I've just sped this up a little bit because I don't want to bore you too much with this part. It's purely me just taping the Fisher cable to the wires I want to remove, and then carefully pushing the wire back through the tail tidy whilst pulling on the wire the other side. If I just show you now what it looks like behind here. See the wires. As you can see there's the wire that I've pulled through with my tape on it. And now I'm going to remove the old indicator. Okay, so here we have our wire removed from our Fisher cable, and what we want to do now is there's a clip there, rubber clip, just push up, take this clip off, and simply push the rubber down and out. And it's that simple to remove the old indicator. There we go, done. One thing I do want to mention is it is well worth checking that these all work, because I did actually fit one. At least I got halfway through the process and realised that it didn't actually work, and I had to go through the whole hassle of sending it back to Yamaha and get them to send me a new one, which they did. So what I would suggest, I mean, the chances of someone else getting the one that doesn't work are probably quite slim, but hey, if you want to save yourself backtracking and having to do something all over again, it's worth spending the 30 seconds it takes just to connect it up to an existing connection, and just put the hazards on or the indicator on, and just to check. So I've got it connected here into the existing connector block, just touching the relevant pins, and that works great. So I'm going to fit this now. Okay, so first off, we've got the old one removed. I've got my wire to pull the new wires back through the tail tidy. So what we're going to do here is simply, very similar to the front ones, we've got these standoff plastic washers that we need to put in the right order. So we've got the kind of standoff one that goes on the outside. Oh, also we need to cut these off because these are no good to us, and we won't actually be able to fish these through the tail tidy. My connection is going to be exactly the same as the front one. I'm going to insert the wires into the existing connector block. So okay, so quite simply just get rid, and that's it. Now it comes with like a bit of the wiring showing here, but this black sleeve, what we want to do is ideally push it all the way back to the thread. Just covers the wires, it looks a bit nicer, offers a little bit more protection from the weather. You don't, with the back ones as well, what I would say is you want these wires as long as possible on the back, because they actually have to go a bit further to make the connection, whereas the front you only need probably 7 or 8 inches to make a connection, and obviously give yourself a little bit of slack to fit in the panels on the front. But on these ones, yeah, keep as much with this wire as you can, because it will make your life a lot easier, let's put it that way. So I actually made a little mistake there. What I should have done before I cut the unwanted connectors off is I should have used that end to have something to grab onto, so I could then pull the black sleeve up inside the thread. It subsequently took me 10 minutes to sort it out, so yeah, don't make that mistake and be an idiot like me. Okay, so don't do what I did and cut the connectors off first, because what you will find is it's so much more difficult to pull this black sleeve up tight to this thread. And what we want to try and do really is almost get it inside the thread. If you can, you should be able to. It is fiddly, but it can be done. So yeah, I recommend don't make my mistake and cut your connectors off. Pull the wire back through the sleeve first, so it's all the way up and inside this thread. Okay, so now that that's sorted, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my first standoff washer, and I'm going to feed my wires through. To begin with, we want to just get everything in place, just so we can tighten it up, and then any little adjustments we need to make we can do before we give it the final tighten. This is a little bit of a fiddly job, so if you do have somebody that wants to lend a hand, you probably will appreciate it, because as you can see, you almost need a third hand to hold certain parts at once. But if you can manage, then happy days. So let me just have a look here. Right, that's in place. Okay, so I've got that sort of where it needs to be, and also what I'm going to do what I did with the front, is I'm going to use a 4mm standoff washer. What I'll do at the end, I will give a list of the parts that I used just to make this work, because I'm a little bit disappointed with the quality of the fitting from Yamaha, considering they're like a Yamaha product, and you know, I ordered them specifically for this bike, I should say, get my words out. I thought they would be a bit better designed, and yeah, they're you mean, look, the quality looks good. You can't expect anything less from Yamaha, but I think, you know, fitting wise could have been a little bit better, but hey ho, it hasn't put me off. And it just makes the job a little bit more challenging, which, you know, I'm not scared, so here we are. Right, so now I've got and the good thing about these standoff washers is they almost act as like a rubber nut. So once you get it started, it just winds on. because it's a really snug fit. He said. Okay, so I'm not going to talk too much about winding that on. It's pretty obvious now that I've got it in place that we need to wind that on, and then I'm going to put the stainless steel nut that comes with it over the top of that. It just hides a bit more of the thread. It looks a bit nicer, and I think it allows you to kind of tighten everything up, and it just, you know, makes it all feel a bit firmer without, you know, having to tighten the life out of it. Okay, so I have my washers and everything in place. Got my rubber standoff washer on. As you can see, look, even without putting the nut on, it's helping to hold everything in place. So yeah, it's really this that's going to really pull everything in nicely and stop it from moving around. So slide the nut on. Hopefully you can see past my head what's happening. Okay, so there's the nut on, and you just want a small spanner. Okay, so get 12mm spanner, and you want to just, as before, I recommend holding onto the rubber part of the indicator and not the actual indicator itself, because we don't know if we're twisting anything inside, and I'm pretty sure that this the rubber part of the indicator, the external bit anyway, is attached to the thread. It seems like a complete part, so I feel pretty safe knowing that holding onto that I'm not going to cause any internal damage to the indicator itself. And it's worth just giving it a little nipple and just having a look, make sure you're happy with, you know, the way it's lined up with the other one. It's everything's in the right place before you go too mad. Okay, yeah, that looks the same as the other side. The thing we want is wonky looking indicators. Okay, so happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this a good tighten. Again, not going too mad. You know, it's only holding on the plastic indicator. It's not. This has no structural importance, so no need to go mental with it. But just enough so it doesn't move around. Say when you come to wash it and stuff like that. Problem is, I'm blocking my own light from there, so just see if I've got that in there good enough. So it's actually, yeah, the inside and outside, ideally you want to check before you really tighten, because it does cover up a little bit of a hole. So you really want to make sure that yeah, you're covering all bases.
Right, so my indicator is tightened up on the nut. I'm happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is I have my cable taped to my Fisher cable. So what I'm going to do now is just carefully pull that through the tail tidy. What you don't want to do is force it. If it feels like you're having to force it, maybe it's catching on something, so just kind of give it a wiggle, maybe pull it back a little bit and try again. Yeah, because if you try and force it, it's just going to come out of the tape, and you'll have to start again with feeding it through. So okay, I'm through. So yeah, that was good. It wasn't too difficult at all. Successfully managed to pull it through. Great.
You can see this okay, so I've got my my wires pulled through. I can remove the electrical tape, the actual Fisher cable itself from the wires. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that was pretty easy, that one, to get through. I thought I'd have a bit more resistance than that, but it was absolutely fine. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this seat support and locking mechanism out the way, just to give me a little bit more room. They just held on with these 4 5mm Allen key bolts, so it's worth just taking them out and just pulling this to one side. It will just give a bit more room, making the connection. So yeah, you can see that moves out nicely. Let's put it to one side, and yeah, down here then we can get to our connector block. So before I put these in place, I'm gonna attempt to show you quickly the actual location where the wires are going to go in. I'm hoping you can just see in there. So these 2 pins, behind the 2 pins, if the camera will focus enough, you should hopefully be able to see there's like a small square gap behind these pins, and that is where our wires are going to go into. It makes a decent connection. Yeah, I just found it fit perfectly, so I thought, why chop this off if I can insert the wires into that. Yes, it's not, it isn't clamped or tightly secured, but these wires, they're never going to be disturbed because they're under the seat. Same with the others. As long as the connection's made and they're held in place, there should be no issues. So yeah, hopefully that will kind of give you an understanding. Obviously you can do it your own way. You can, by all means, cut this off and put your own connector blocks on, but there isn't really a lot of wiring to play around with under here. There's a little bit, and also it's quite tight, so you don't really want anything too chunky anyway. So I just found that using the existing block and just feeding it into behind them pins, yeah, it just worked. So I thought, hey, let's go with it. Okay, so I've got my 2 wires pushed into the connector. Yeah, as you can see, they're not falling out. And yeah, now I'm going to just turn them on at the back before I tape it up and put everything back together, just to make sure that it all works. Yeah, and there you go, works perfectly. So yeah, now I'm going to go ahead and put everything back together. Okay, so all my wires are taped up, they're nicely secure. I've checked once more that everything's working okay before I put this seat bracket back on. So yeah, it's worth just taking your time, making sure if it works before you go ahead and put everything back on, because nothing worse than going backwards. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'll get this all put back together, and then I'll do a bit of a walk around so you can kind of see, the whole thing as a finished job. I'm really happy with them. They were a little bit fiddly, ended up taking a bit longer than I wanted them to, but that's purely because one of them didn't work and had to send it back and wait for it. So yeah, it took a couple of weeks to actually get this job done, which is annoying, but good weather tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to going out for a nice ride. So quickly I thought I'd just show you all the tools that I needed to do this job. So I've got the indicator themselves with all the spacers in the nut. Wire strippers you don't necessarily need, but if you've got them, then obviously they're good to use. Some electrical tape, some snips to cut the wires. I've got 5mm Allen in a ratchet to take the seat bracket off. I've got the 4mm Allen key to take the front Zeus fasteners off if you need them. You can use the T25 if not. Small screwdriver to pop the pins out of the connectors. 12mm spanner to tighten the nuts, and then I've got the standoff plastic washers. So this is what I bought. I bought the medium to hard M6 black washers. I got them off eBay. They were bang on. I used 4 of the 4mm to do this installation. So yeah, hopefully all that information helps. And obviously this is with the Yamaha made indicators. I know there's loads of other ones out there on the market, but yeah, even if you don't use those, hopefully this installation will kind of give you a bit of an idea of where to look on the bike for what, and just yeah, some overall tips.
Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and watch out for more content from me.